Okay, welcome back. Today we have something a little bit special for you. You're going to get some insight into our laser coaching sessions where Kate and I coach students personally. Now, of course, our CCA students always have access to our coaching calls twice a month, and then, of course, our fabulous Facebook group as well. But these are special calls where we really get to dig into their specific questions in that moment. They're only 10 minutes, but boy, do we pack a lot of coaching and information in there. The topics are going to run the gamut. So, no matter what you are interested in as a copywriter, even though you're not in the hot seat, I guarantee that you're going to hear something useful and interesting. Also, just a heads up that in a couple of the recordings, students mention Pitchapalooza and Right Starts, which are a couple of our student only events. They're free for our students. And as with everything we do, they're designed to get people taking action and seeing success. So when you hear that reference, just know that that's what they are. So without further ado, let's dig into our laser coaching sessions. Indigo, what can we help you with?
So I kind of have a question today about mindset
Okay.
and potentially maybe a question about branding as well, if there's time. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess just to give you a bit of context, I'm also an actor as well, and my
Cool.
kind of aim is to balance copywriting with acting, and acting doesn't always pay the bills like 100% of the time. And I've discovered that I love copywriting, so it's sort of trying to like build that kind of career aspect as well. But I'm finding that I find it quite difficult to switch like between the two, in terms of I find like when I'm doing an acting job, it's like all encompassing, and then I suddenly find everything like copywriting just gets like put to the side. And I don't know, maybe it's partly resistance. I don't know, but I find like the switching of the mindset between, oh, I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this, and trying to like balance it all and not just like put all my energy into one and then all my energy into the other.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just wondered if you had kind of any advice
Yeah.
around that.
Well, basically, what you're doing is you're switching between roles, right? You're switching between your actor role and you're switching between your copywriter role. And we will give you some tactics and some things that we would suggest. I'm sure Kate and I are both going to talk about scheduling and that kind of thing. But you, particularly being an actor, may find it a little bit easier to think in those terms of, okay, this is the time when I'm focusing on being an actor. My role is actress, actor, actress, or whatever term you prefer. And then in this time, my role, and I take on the role, the persona of a copywriter. You may find that that actually helps in terms of getting your mind to focus on different things just the same way that you would have to if you were in, do you do theater or film or television?
Kind of a mix of all of
Okay,
it. Yeah.
perfect. So let's say you're filming a TV series during the day and you're also on stage at night. You would have to switch, right? You don't have the luxury of being like, no, I can't. I can only take this job because but or I mean you do, but you would have to switch. So what techniques would you use for yourself as an actor that you already know you have to switch from this role to the other role? And I would use those same techniques to switch from your role as an actor to your role as a copywriter. Now, one of the things that, and I will promise I'll shut up in just a second, Kate,
No,
to
no worries.
let you,
I love this opera. Yeah.
yeah, but one of the things that will probably help is to have discrete hours
Mhm.
for your copywriting work and your acting work. And your acting work obviously is dictated by someone else, but you also know what those hours are. And based on those hours, what chunks can you set aside outside of those that are going to be your copywriting hours? Like if you know that you have to be on set from noon to 6 on Tuesday, can you say, all right, I'm going to be on set noon to 6. So I'm going to do from 9 to 10:30 at my desk is going to be my copywriting time. And I'm not going to think about anything but my copywriting time. When you give yourself those kind of discrete hours, you have the almost luxury of being able to just focus on one thing, because you've put it on your calendar, you put or your schedule, and that's all that you need to focus on. And you know that once you come out of that, you can focus on, do the laundry, do whatever, prep to get on set or that kind of thing. But during that time, that is your copywriting time. And then however you want to break up your acting time, or that's probably going to be dictated for you. But that will allow you the ability to focus just during that time without having to think about the other things. Yeah. Kate, what was your?
Yeah, I'm curious. I have follow-up questions if you don't mind. Are you finding that like you take an acting job and then it's like a week or 2 weeks of just acting, and so copywriting falls by the wayside for a couple of weeks, or is it more day to day? What's it been like so far, I guess, in terms of how you've broken it out?
Great question.
I think kind of a mix of both. Like, I think
Okay.
if I take an acting job, then the copywriting definitely just falls to the wayside. And then I kind of find like I'm really like slow to get back into it. So I feel
Okay.
like I'm in a really good flow with like pitching or whatever. And then once I've just like
Yeah.
completely stopped, then I find it really hard to like to switch back up and then I feel like I've wasted like a few weeks sort of like not really like after the acting job is finished, like not really doing anything.
Okay.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
helpful. So what I would say is even if you have like 15 minutes a day or whatever it is, to give yourself days off where you're like, you know what, if you have complete days off, great, or days off definitely from copywriting where you're like, okay, I'm not going to put pressure on myself to do any copywriting today, but it sounds like it would be helpful to have a little bit of consistency through those acting jobs so that when you kind of have more time and space for copywriting, it's not a complete start from scratch. You've been kind of chipping away. And so I would say, like to Nikki's point, put it on your schedule and just take a real look at your schedule, depending on the acting job, depending what it is. And this might vary for you. So I get that that's tricky, but as they come up, say, okay, I'm going to look ahead for however long this acting job is. And these are going to be the days, times that I put aside time for copywriting. And maybe some days it literally is 15 minutes. And you're going to say, okay, I'm going to add a couple of companies to my pitch list today, but to do something, which is better than nothing, right? And give yourself the time and space to say, you know what, 15 minutes is great. Like that's more 15 minutes more than I would have done if I did 0 minutes. I think too often we want to do so much. So potentially finding that balance for yourself of what is realistic for me, maybe it's slightly uncomfortable to push a little bit, but not feeling like, okay, I have to send 5 pitches if that's not realistic for you in that moment, to say, I'm not going to beat myself up. I think too often though, we beat ourselves up and then we're like, well, I'm not going to do anything. But so doing little something, if it is, I'm going to write a subject line, I'm going to do a draft of a pitch and be okay with it being a very messy draft that I'll come back to the next day and revise. So just breaking Caitlin, our operations manager, always says, like, if a task has been on your list for multiple days, then it's too big. And so I think in your case, this might be a similar thing of like, instead of write one pitch, break it down into all the teeny tiny steps that you need to do so that you can just chip away at it and not feel like, oh, I have to do this whole big thing. Like, what are the micro steps I can take?
Yeah, that's great feedback. Well,
Yeah.
and the thing is that copywriting is an awesome career. It's awesome, but it's still work, which means that there are plenty of days that you're not going to feel like doing it, right? I love what I do for a living. But if I didn't have to show up and be accountable to people, I would probably do a lot less of it, just because we're humans, right? That's just our
I won the lottery, I would do a little bit less.
it's like we want to achieve, but our body is on that resistance is like, why don't you just lay on the sofa? Like, how about just a little more time on the sofa, right? The only way to overcome that is to know that that's going to come up, is to know that, yeah, okay, I know that I'm going to feel like doing XYZ. And in that case, that if you plan ahead, you go, all right, this is the time, but this is the time that I'm committed to working on my copywriting business. And to Kate's point, it does not have to be hours and hours. 15 minutes is better than no time at all. And you would actually be surprised at how much you can accomplish in 15 minutes. But at the same time, too, you have to work with yourself. If the first time of the day is, early in the morning is how a normal person would say it. Early morning is the best time of day when you are freshest and you're most creative. And like for me, example, in the mid-afternoon, I'm terrible. Can't be creative to save my life. If you know that the morning time is your most creative time, then don't leave your copywriting until after you've done all of the other stuff, because you're going to come home, you're going to be exhausted, and your energy is not going to be there. You're already exhausted from work, and your energy, you're just naturally not going to, you're trying to fight yourself. So maybe it involves, okay, going, all right, well, I have to get up at this time to be on set. So maybe I can get up just 15 minutes earlier or a half hour earlier, or however your schedule works out. But you have to make the commitment and schedule it out, because if you don't, it's not going to happen. And say, all right, this is the time that's on my schedule. This is what I'm going to do. And even if there's small steps, what is small anyway? But even if it's small steps, you're consistently moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Like that, all of that really resonates. And like, yeah, I know that I love like scheduling, and when I schedule, I get so much done. And when I don't schedule, it doesn't happen.
Yes.
And then I love as well, just with the 15 minutes a day, I feel like that takes the pressure off to be like, oh, I have to do like 2 hours or an hour. And like, yeah, to know that if I just do 15 minutes, then when I come back in 3 weeks, it's not going to feel like a complete mountain that I have to climb because I haven't like touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Because even 15 minutes a day for 3 weeks is hours,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's super useful. Thank you. If there's time, just around the same thing in terms of having 2 careers and like branding around that. I've kind of ended up using, I've got my own name that I use for acting, and then I use with copywriting, I set up a website and I just used my first name, but my mum's maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered if, in terms of like having the same name or a different name, like if that, I wasn't sure if it would look unprofessional, I suppose, if a client like Googled me and all this acting stuff came up, and if that was kind of like something to think about. Or
no. I mean, I don't mean like, no, you're correct. I mean, it's totally a valid question. Absolutely. But I don't think that maybe 30 years ago, when it was a very different world, but now I feel like so many of us are doing so many different things. And no, I don't think so. I think the only way that it would count against you is if on your website you tried to combine the two, like I'm here for copywriting and for acting. Yeah, exactly. As long as you're separating them out. But I also, and if you want to use your mom's maiden name, absolutely. But I don't think you need to. I don't think anyone's going to go, oh, you're a copywriter, but you're also an actor. Then no, it's just one more thing.
I think they'll think it's really cool. Actually.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only thing I think it would come up is like with tax documents potentially being like, oh, heads up, just so you know, I use this name for writing and this is my legal names, just so you're not confused and don't think that's a typo or whatever it is. I think that'd be the only time. And even then clients probably won't even notice. They just process paperwork and they're not even paying attention to it.
Exactly. That is a consideration though. If you're going to use your non-legal name, you need to check in and maybe talk to a bookkeeper or something like that to make sure that you can process payments in that name, because you definitely do not want to get checks or payments in that name and not be able to accept them.
Like, wait.
Yes. But no, I think it shows that you're a well-rounded person, right? We all want to work with interesting people who are doing interesting things in the world. So I don't think it would count against you to be a copywriter who works as an actor, as much as hopefully I wouldn't think it would be a problem for you to be an actor who also writes copy, right? I think it just makes you a more interesting and well-rounded person.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. And like thinking about it the other way, like in the acting industry, it's definitely not an issue to have like another job. Most people do. So yeah, no, that's good to know, because I've kind of been like worrying about it and feeling like, oh, do I need to set up a whole new like Instagram and a whole new like Twitter and a whole new all this kind of stuff with like a different
way. No, not at all. Not at all. Just makes it even more interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. So did that help a bit? Do you feel like you have a better path forward?
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like I know what to do. It's going to be 15 minutes on my calendar, just like keeping my kind of, I don't know what the word, fingers in touch. That sounds weird, but like keeping like in touch with it whilst I'm like working for the next like few weeks, and in general, like for when acting jobs come up in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah, and keeping it balanced, and yeah, I'm really excited. And I just want to say as well, like, thank you both so much, because like this course has been like amazing. Like I honestly feel like it's changed my life. And I've just like had the best time doing it. And like, yeah, I feel like I wouldn't like be here like without you guys, which sounds dramatic, but yeah, I've loved like being on this course and like being in the CCA family. So thank you both so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Thank you for being part of it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's an honor to be a part of your experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.